Books on the Brain.
Welcome back to Books on the Brain, a podcast of books and nonsense. I'm Deirdre,
I'm Danielle.
and we are back with another episode. We are going to have a little intro, and then we have a very special guest joining us, as you can probably tell by the title of this video. So we're not going
We're
to make
by
it
the
wait too long.
I think by the looks on our faces right now and how much we are blushing and how much we are
Blushing, glowing.
oh my goodness.
How are
We
you?
I'm so much better. I feel like we're doing this intro post the interview with the Fab VE Schwab. I feel like my whole week has turned around. I'm like my week wasn't going so well, but now I'm like it's the best week.
Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
was having a full-on like mental crisis this morning, not in a scary way, just in like a personal way. And I feel like the heaven's gates have opened up to me and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine.
I'm looking forward to everything, to life. It's all good now. Every problem has been solved. That's not true, but
All my personal problems have been solved.
I'm good. I know we're gonna record a catch-up episode. We're kind of things are a little bit out of order.
Mhm.
We're getting as opportunities come, we are taking them, and then
Yeah.
we'll plan our perfect season. But yeah, right now I'm chilling. I'm chilling. I'm teaching. I got a teaching contract, so I'm doing the deed.
So happy for you.
What about you, kid?
I'm getting ready to go to a conference, the Pop
Yes, you
Culture
are.
Association conference. So exciting and a little nervy because I'm giving two paper talks. And so I've been in like finalizing my papers and my PowerPoints and the thoughts that I'm having, and both of them they're both on very different topics, but the like central point of them is collective memory, the like very philosophical idea. Um, and so I've been in this like philosophy mindset for the last week, and I'm like, I am not a philosopher. Like, sure, could I be? Maybe, but like I'm such a facts girl. Like, there's a reason why I became a fashion historian. Like, I love a fact. And so thinking in this very like theoretical, voidy way has
Existence.
truly like made my brain break a little bit. So I'm like, I actually can't wait for this to be over so that I can just like dive into books that I'm not writing. Also, to be clear, I'm not writing a book. I'm just writing papers and articles.
Actually like books, and that's beautiful. Um, yeah, philosophy is a hard headspace to be in. I have a couple, well, one of my best friends was a philosophy minor, and so they'll
Whoa.
sometimes bring up philosophy stuff, and I'm like, philosophy and my anxiety do not mix. Those things
No,
don't carry
no.
together.
And it's been a while. Like, I took a really great theory class when I was in my grad program. And I'm glad I took it because it's led me to the world of thinking that I'm in right now. But like having to study these like philosophers and theorists and like really deep dive into these like heady thought processes, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, was I built for this? Like, how did I make my way here? But then I'm like, am I letting imposter syndrome get the best of me?
Hmm.
Am
Hmm.
I?
And which, hey, uh, we were so blessed.
For
The
anybody
le-
that's only listening, one, you should go over to our YouTube channel and watch the video. Uh,
we look really pretty today.
but just in case you don't, Danielle is holding up her copy of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil.
You guys, I think like I think we should do a little like our feelings on the book before we get into the interview.
I agree.
In case it's not clear because we are so starstruck, or at least I was like,
I felt like
uh-huh.
my eyes were so wide the entire time. I was like,
Like Victoria's probably like, blink, you guys, blink or
I
something.
feel like I didn't blink for 30 minutes or
Oh,
breathe. I was like holding my breath the entire time.
yeah, because she has the most profound answers, and then they'll wait for us to say something, and we're both like, yeah, because I'm just like,
Totally.
it's so funny. But in case it's not incredibly clear, Barry Bones in the Midnight Soil is that girl. She is hot. She is thick.
She is the moment.
She is the moment. This book is so freaking good, you guys. If you if you read any book,
Ever.
ever read this
If
book,
you read a book, let it be this one.
to read this one. It's so good. It has all the things we love from Addie. The switching POVs, the sprawling time periods. Uh, but this book is so unapologetic, which I love. This book, uh, I just there's so many moments that I'm like, I'm so excited for people to read this. I'm so excited to talk about this more. I know we won't go into too many spoilers as as a courtesy.
Yes, because even though this episode is coming out after Bones has released,
Yeah,
so we do have a couple like we will give you fair warning that a potential spoiler is coming. Um, but I think you could listen to the episode before reading the book, and I think you would definitely enjoy the episode after reading the book.
totally, totally, totally. And we'll just have to have our spoiler. What was your favorite moment? What was your favorite
Mm,
moment? We didn't get to talk about this in the
yeah.
in what was your fave moment?
So I've had like an hour to think about this because Danielle asked me this an hour ago, and I was like, I don't know. There were so many, but I think most of my favorite moments involve Sabine.
Of course.
Um, she is my favorite character. She is one of my favorite characters Victoria has written, slash is probably one of my favorite characters in writing ever.
Yeah, it's
Um,
so good.
there's a scene where she is traveling with two companions and they are captured and she manages to escape into a graveyard, which is detrimental to her. And she knows that if she stays there, she will die. And just her desperation to live in death and like clawing herself out of that situation. And then the moments after that that we get to see, that is probably my favorite like sequence in the book.
So good. My jaw was dropped during that part.
Dropped.
I was like, um, my fave moment. So much of the book centers around relationships. I'm as most books do, right? Most books are about relationships. But Bury Our Bones is very integral to the plot is relationships to others, relationship to yourself and to who you are, who you want to be, who you desire to be, and then what circumstances allow you to be. But one of my fave mamas is I won't say too much because it's a little spoilery, but there's a line, silly Lottie, come back to bed, that comes up a couple times.
Hmm.
Uh, that the principle around the first time um, that happens and what's happening in the story. And it's just, yeah, it was such a like, oh my, it's like right at the top of the roller coaster when stuff's about to hit and you're gonna go down that drop. That is the moment for me in the book where I'm like, oh, my tummy's like light, and I'm like, holy moly, so good, so good. Well, please enjoy this freaking interview
Yes.
with the best of the world. And the sweetest cats. Victoria
The best.
was like, just there's Tomas and Chauncey.
Hmm.
They are so sweet. And you'll notice my cats are not here because they're not sweet. I've got a photo that's as close as they're getting to this camera shot right now. Um, but enjoy the interview. Please go get Barrier Bones in the Midnight Soil. I don't think we need to
Yes.
tell you to because like it's kind of obvious. Like get this book, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, But you will not be disappointed in this book. This book is so hot.
We are so excited to have one of our favorite authors back on the podcast. They are a New York Times best-selling author of just about over 25 books at this point, which is wild. Their next book, Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, comes out on June 10th of this year, 2025. So if you haven't picked it up yet, you can now because this episode is out after the book comes out. Please welcome back to the pod our favorite author, Victoria Schwab.
Hi, thank you for having me back again, this time with more cat.
Yes.
God, always more
I
cat.
know. I know. I brought myself to them because people were always like, why is the cat never in the shot? I was like, I don't control the cat's lives. I have to position myself around them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's how they prefer it, you know?
Yeah, exactly,
That's the
exactly.
natural order of things.
That's the hierarchy. So I just found out recently that there's like a law here. Watch this be fake news, but I love it too much. I'm going to tell you. There's a law. So like if you have a dog and your
Yeah.
dog attacks somebody, it is you as the owner's responsibility. But
Hmm.
if you have a cat and they attack somebody, it is not your responsibility because cats are not recognized as fully domesticated animals. So they have their own agency and you cannot be held accountable for the things that they do.
You know what? I
I,
believe that.
I believe it too. I believe it too. Now, have these ones ever touched grass? No. No, but
I fear
hypothetically,
no.
hypothetically.
So
I
where
know.
in the world are you right now?
I'm at my home in Edinburgh, in Portobello, so like a couple blocks from the seaside. It is wildly nice out today, and I very much distrust that. Whenever it's nice here in Scotland, I'm like, are you planning something? What are you doing? It'll probably be heinous for like the rest of April after this, but it's pretty great.
We are having the opposite here in New York. It is absolutely heinous out.
Is it? Is it
Yeah.
wintry?
It's winter. It is cold and rainy, and it's been that way for like a week and a half.
It's like 65 and sunny here. I know,
Wow.
it's confusing. We live in confusing times.
We do. We deeply confusing.
Yes, yes. But by the time this podcast comes out, I will be on tour for a
Yes.
while. So I will be on the road. I will not know where I am. I will have to take pictures of hotel doors because I will forget the numbers each day.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how I line this up. I'm seeing you like every 2 months this year
Incredible.
because I'm coming to your tour stop in New
I,
York.
lo- I
And I'm
love this for
like,
myself.
wow, this is the best year of my life.
Perfect. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Right? So let's get right into it. You have Bury Our Bones coming out this year. Would you mind giving us a little elevator pitch,
Sure.
summary for what people can expect coming into the book?
So bury our bones in the midnight soil, or bury our bones, as I'll probably just call it because I'm lazy and all my titles are long. Is the story of three women over the course of 500 years and how their lives and deaths and lives again begin to intertwine. It's also the story of a girl trying to start her whole life over at the age of 18, and she goes to a college party and has a one night stand with a really pretty girl, stranger, and wakes up the next morning dead. And it's about what happened. So it's part revenge tale, part cat and mouse game, part love story, part revenge story, and part horror novel.
Oh,
So wonderful.
and it's so good.
It's I like to say it's Addie LaRue by way of vicious because it's like
Yeah.
the style, like the prose is like probably the prettiest that I've ever written, and it's the probably the most me. But the content is pretty violent.
Wouldn't have it any other way, you know?
Oh, it's same,
It's
unfortunately.
freaking perfect. Okay, amazing. My turn for a question. Um, Bones have or bury our bones in midnight soil. Bones here. Bones has many themes, one being about balance between freedom and expectations, the
Yeah.
balance between who you desire to be and who you must be, both like for some of the characters before death and then after death. Why do you think this balance is still so relevant today to readers as it was in 1532 with the character Maria?
I mean, I think at its heart, this is a book about taking up space in the world. and about living in authentic truth. And one of the reasons that I wanted to write this story, people are always like, when are you going to write your lesbian book? I'm a card carrying lesbian, and it took me a little while. And it was because I wanted to explore some really specific themes, and some of that was a queerness across history, but also the community that we build around ourselves for safety and for protection, and also the very particular intoxication of being seen as yourself for the first time.
Mm.
And so a lot of the themes of this book, even though they're explored across these three time periods and these three contexts and these three girls, it's really just about a world telling you to be smaller than you are and to want less and to deserve less. And what happens when you decide that you deserve more? It's not a moral book. It's a deeply amoral book. But I think that these three women are in these positions wherein they are so tired in each way. Like they're tired of being told that they're not allowed to be hungry, that they have to settle and be small. And I think that's a really timely, in that it's evergreen, unfortunately. It's just something that doesn't go away. It changes shape, and sometimes it feels like a tide receding, and sometimes it feels like a tide advancing. But the fact is, it's like there are a lot of people who just always feel like they're being told that they don't deserve space, and they don't deserve happiness, and they don't deserve satisfaction. And this is a story about three women taking what they want as well as what they need.
Yeah.
So good.
It really feels like it's coming at exactly the right time for so many people. And like, especially right now when it feels like morality is guiding so many people in a deeply unsettling way. I'm like, yeah, give me the amorality because I feel that in my core right now.
I mean, it's wild that in some ways, like Maria and Sabine and the Widow
Yeah.
find it easier in like the
Yeah.
16th century to carve out their spaces because they can play the game a little bit better.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas like by Charlotte's time period in like Bridgerton era England, she knows that she's gay, and there's just a huge amount of societal pressure to not get to live happily. And it's one of the reasons that she finds Sabine so intoxicating, is this woman comes into her life and she doesn't have to mask, she doesn't have to pretend. She, like, somebody looks at her and sees her. And as a queer person, right, like one of the most important awakenings that happens, whether you're a child, a teen, or an adult coming into your sexuality or your gender presentation, is when somebody looks at you and sees you, not a performance. And it's like really hard, even if it's the wrong person seeing you, the fact that they're seeing you is so powerful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's seductive, right? And so, I mean, that's kind of
Uh,
at the core of this book, is like, what happens when you're seduced by the wrong people, but you're so hungry to be seen and to be known and to be loved,
Yeah.
that like it's like a knife in the chink in the armor, you know?
yeah. Yeah. Oh, oh my God. I'm like, I just want to talk forever, but we don't have enough time. And I'm like, ooh, I have chills.
See, I'm a
Um,
mouthy person. I like to
no,
ramble on.
we love it. So how do you decide where to set your books? Because sometimes they're in our own history, like Addie and Bones, but sometimes they're in their own world or like a version of their own world. So like when do you decide the setting? How do you decide the setting? Does that kind of like come to you early on?
Yeah, I'd say that like the vast majority of my interest, especially as I continue to evolve as a writer, is in what I would call low fantasy, or fantasy set in our world. And the example I always like to give, no, I don't like to give it because it's like, let me use the two straight white dudes, but like that are dead. But like, if you think about fantasy as fitting into a Tolkien model or a Lewis model, the thing I mean about that is that a Tolkien model says, here, hold this book. The magic and the world that you're going to experience is only available to you through the experience of reading. It's not real.
Right.
Whereas Lewis says, somewhere in your house is a wardrobe with no back, go find it. And
Mhm.
I think that one is telling you go seek magic through fiction, and one piece of fiction is telling you magic is real and you just have to notice it.
Mhm.
And I'm far more interested in that. Even Shades of Magic and Threads of Power, which are my most like far-fetched fantasy. If you think about reality as having 2 feet on the ground in one spot, and then every step you take from there is stepping into the fantastical. Shades of Magic is my farthest journey from reality, but even that starts in a point of departure of 1819 London, as
Right.
it is. So I'm really interested in bringing magic into our world and telling the reader, hey, it's been here as long as the history. You just haven't been privy to it. You didn't notice that that person walking past you on the street had those 7 freckles and you forgot her by the time she rounded the corner. Or you didn't realize that this coffee shop had just something a little strange about her. You didn't realize that that girl sitting at the bar who just had this kind of kinetic energy might have been something more than mortal.
Mhm.
And I've always been fascinated about that. And then I read things like The Wicked and the Divine, which is a brilliant comic book series that essentially postulates like, what if all the pop stars that we worship are just reincarnated gods? Because they have a power. Artists have that kind of larger
Yeah.
than life power. And I've always been a fan of Florence and the Machine. And I watch Florence Welch and I just think, you're not mortal.
Mhm.
Nothing about her. I've seen her in concert. It is cult-like. It is just worshipful. And so I was really thinking about the fact of like, I just want magic to be in our world. So whether it's City of Ghosts and ghost stories, or whether it's the north of England and Gallant, or whether it's New York with Addie, or Spain and Boston. Hi. It's just like I want to teach you to like look around and start to wonder if there's magic there. And it's not actually about making you believe in magic. It's just about creating a crack in the firmament of your concept of reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was I just recently started Jonathan Strange and Mr.
Oh
Norrell. I
yeah.
listened to your intro in it, and something about the way you were talking about how that book influenced you really like cracked something in my mind that like opened me up to why I enjoy fantasy so much. And I was literally standing in the middle of Columbus Circle sobbing. I was like, get it together. Get it together.
I love that though, because I think that it's just, I think as we grow up, I think children are really good at holding whimsy in that way.
Hmm.
And then as adults, we just like kill that part of ourselves. And there's obviously we still seek it, or we wouldn't be reading, we wouldn't be watching, we wouldn't be listening, we wouldn't be constantly consuming art that transports us in some way. So we still seek it, but we fail to articulate what we're seeking.
Hmm.
And I think so much of it is that sense that the world is bigger and stranger and weirder and darker and more magical than it seems.
Yeah.
And that we get to deserve that
Yeah.
better possibility,
And
right?
it's
Like,
not childlike. Like it gets put down often as like, which is so funny to me. We could spend an entire hour just talking about like genre hierarchy
Yeah.
and
yeah,
perceptions of genre hierarchy and how like science fiction doesn't get put down the same way fantasy does and all of that
Hmm.
stuff. But like basically what we're intuited, what's inferred is that in adulthood we are not as deserving. It is a childish pursuit to engage in whimsy, to engage in curiosity, to believe. And it's really funny, right? Because I'm a pagan, so I'm already biased on this, but like people will hold religion in one hand and
yeah,
then like damn whimsy in the other. And like
Yeah.
so certain forms of belief become okay for adults,
yeah,
but other forms become something that you should have grown out of. And I think when you do that, you grow out of empathy, you grow out
Hmm.
of curiosity, you grow out of interest. I don't want you to grow out of those things. I want you to be 35 and pick up Bury Our Bones and be like, oh, is there a vampire club somewhere in my city? Like, I want you to wonder about these things. I want you to just like kind of have openness to belief.
Hmm.
yes.
Yeah.
That's such a wonderful answer.
Sorry.
No.
He's like, what if I put my butt towards this camera?
No, it's okay. That's okay. That is a great angle. Um, yeah, it is such a gift to be able to provide people the vehicle to believe and to get in touch with that part of themselves that they feel like they can't access or is shameful to access of like I get to be I get to be in amazement. I get to be in wonder
Yeah,
about something. And
exactly.
Bones does that. Holy guacamole, man. Like thank you for writing so many worlds where people can do that. Um, I know it's not always like the it's not always the safest space to be to create that people feel represented in, but it's so important. So thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's also really important to say that you can write really dark at the same time.
Yeah.
Like my
Yeah.
stories I'm not saying like, oh, have hope and whimsy and it's almost like hope porn. Like it's not. My stories
No.
are so dark. That's not what I'm asking you to believe. I'm asking you to believe that like maybe there's just more. Maybe it's an art of noticing problem,
Yeah.
right? Like I'd much rather move through the world and think, oh my God, there was something magic there and I wasn't paying attention, than there was no magic there at all.
Agreed. Amazing. Okay, another theme. All my questions are about themes because that's what I find very interesting. Another theme within Bury Our Bones is this idea of rage, specifically feminine rage. Bones is seething with thick rage, is what I wrote, that transcends any time period. Why was vampires the perfect medium to tell this story about feminine rage?
Oh, I mean, because we need more than a lifetime to act it out, right? We need more, like, we deserve that. I think, it's interesting. It's like whenever people are like, I love vampire novels, I'm like, this is a vampire novel. When people are like, I hate vampire novels, I'm like, I only say the word vampire one time. Please just think of it as an immortality tale, because it's essentially, whether you're doing a deal with the devil, like in Addie, or you're doing a vampiric transaction where you move from human to vampire, it's a transaction, it's a deal. Something is lost and something is gained. And one of the great gains of any immortal bargain is, of course, time. And I think that, like, it's very specific, though. Vampires are a predator. Like, vampires exist at the intersection of romance and horror because they are violent. There is something inherently dangerous, inherently murderous about them. If they don't restrain themselves, you die. There's a seduction there, an intoxication, but it's lethal. And I thought I wanted to give my murderous women, my angry women, my frustrated women, the tools to be monsters, tools to be predatory, especially because female vampires, when and if they have shown up in history, have been largely fetishized, largely written by men, largely seen as kind of like just really gregarious sex kittens whose appetites can't be controlled. And like they often just kind of push to their own marginalia again. And so I wanted to write women who I then was enfranchising to act on their anger. And I think it also forces a level of responsibility and agency. They have to take responsibility for the choices that they're making and the harm that they're doing to other people, even as it is empowering to them. And it was so interesting. I did a podcast yesterday with a guy whose audience is primarily male. And he specifically asked me about a scene in the book wherein Alice essentially entraps a man who might sexually assault her. And she has to eat somebody. She's like, I don't want to eat my classmates. What am I going to do?
Right.
And I was like, yes, because, and he was like, oh, is it really like that? And this was a great interview. I'm not trying to denigrate this in any way, but like, why was she like so kind of violent? And I was like, do you understand that the thing for her is the thing for every femme presenting person everywhere, which is that every time you walk outside into the world, you are in danger. And the sheer relief of not being inherently a victim, of knowing that you, like Alice has that moment where she's like, oh, I don't need to be afraid. He needs to be afraid.
Yeah.
And there's like, I truly cannot think of any greater feeling. Like I'm a runner, and the fact that every time I go out running, regardless if it's 10 in the morning or 10 at night, I have to immediately like weigh the pros and cons, the danger, like how much risk am I taking to just like don't fight. Just be like, oh my God, I don't have to be scared. So I wanted to make them something where they didn't have to be scared. Because obviously there's ways to harm them. There's ways to like, everything has a power balance of give and take. There have to be weaknesses to go with strengths. But I wanted these three women to get to be violent serial killers. And I wanted them to have the time to obviously be liberated and have their lives and have the teeth, in the literal sense, to protect themselves, right? To not be a victim by the simple nature of their bodily form. So there's also, like, of course, the whole thing that I think vampires are inherently queer, speculative creature. If you look back at their underpinnings historically in terms of literary works, they're seen as like the embodiment of otherness. They're seen as something in the liminal spaces, like whether it's Pomodori's vampire, whether it's Camilla, they can't be known, they can't be understood. There's a mystery there, but there's also a lot of violence and a lot of agency. And I wanted to give my complicated women all of the tools that they needed to exercise their immortality on their terms.
Yeah.
So good.
And also be bad. I think this is a really important thing, which is I wanted to write a book about some women behaving badly, especially queer women behaving badly, because so often, one of the reasons it took me 25 books to write a lesbian protagonist is that I want to write lesbian antagonists. I want to write people being messy and amoral and
Mhm.
self-interested. And for a long time, there was just so much pressure, or I felt the pressure to not do that, lest it feel like a conflation of queerness and villainy. And what I realized was I was just trying to assimilate over and over and over and over again and never actually get to write myself into a main character then because I felt so much pressure to just put them on a pedestal and make them look nice and act nice and be good people. And that's so boring for books. That's not what kind of characters I want to write.
Mhm.
So I wanted to write these women behaving badly and give them the tools for their own destruction and self-destruction. And I think Vampire was perfect for that.
It is perfect.
And
Um,
they're hot. And I
the
mean, I
fa-
think it's the thing, we can talk about sex, like vampiric interaction is inherently sexual
oh
Mhm.
yeah,
because like a bite is an inherently sexual act. It's a form of penetration, it's a form of take, it's a form of arousal, but it's also a fraught power dynamic because the biter has the power over the bitten.
Mhm.
And there's a sense of like you are have to really trust the person that's doing the biting because they have the ability to hurt you.
yes. Deirdre and I were chatting before you hopped on the call about the three women in Bury Our Bones and how happy we were that they were so complex that you couldn't be like, oh, they're all of it, and how perfect that is for this story that you're telling. And it's I don't know, as a reader, I'm so excited. I'm like, I like seeing the messy, I like seeing the cracks, I like seeing the gunky stuff where I'm like, yes, uh allows me to feel like those parts of myself
Yeah.
are okay.
There's
Um,
room for it, right? There's room
totally.
for it.
There's
And for a
space.
long time, it felt like only the men get to be messy. And I always look back at Shades of Magic, one of my earlier series, as kind of like a pinnacle example of how you can't win.
Mm.
Because I wrote Lila Bard as a classic male antihero, and then I just changed the pronouns because I wanted to see what would happen. But I basically built her from scratch as the like prototypical male antihero. And she is consistently the only character I get like daily hate mail for. Daily.
That
Like,
makes me I love Lila so
no,
much.
so do I. So do I.
Literally
But
makes me
I get hate
viscerally
mail
angry.
primarily from women. From
So
young
interesting.
women who believe that she should have died. Spoiler, Lila does not die. And they think that the only way that would like make it okay for her to behave the way that she did was if there had been like a moral comeuppance at the end of it. And that pissed me off so much that I wrote Vengeful, which just has a woman at the heart of it who's like, you won't let me finish my sentence? Dead.
Yeah.
Dead, dead, dead. Like she just is so tired. And I think that you can track my relationship to like the feedback I'm hearing from readers over the course of my career because now we're at this one and I'm like, oh, you want to be pissed at some characters?
Yeah, here you
This
go.
is some characters to be pissed at. Like, so yeah, there's no heroes at the center of this book.
No.
There's no heroes anywhere. Like we're all complex.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And again, the like theme of morality in the times we are living in, and it really does feel like there are a lot of women that feel so driven by that because it will make them superior to everyone. And it felt really refreshing to read this book
Well, they
and be
just want to
like,
be a
oh,
pick me girl, right? You
yeah.
want to like be, and I spent the first 10 years of my career in publishing trying to be a pick me girl, right? I tried to write in a way that I felt like, oh, male readers will like me if I'm not clearly a woman on the cover, and like straight readers will like me if I'm not overly queer in the book. And like I just tried again and again and again. And you realize at some point that no amount of assimilation that you try to do is gonna make it work. So you just
Yeah.
gotta like write what you want to write and what you believe in. And like I had to find a way to transmute the success of Addie LaRue into that kind of boldness. Because I think the alternative is to feel like you shrink into safety. Like,
Hmm.
oh, that book was so popular, I never want to ruffle any feathers. And I'm like, then it's wasted. Then that book was wasted for me if I can't transmute that into writing the most like Bones is the most authentically me book I've ever written, for better or for worse.
Hmm.
And I don't think I could have written it at a different point in my life or career.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've like let go of perfectionism and I've held on to purpose instead. because you realize over time that like perfection, I'm still a perfectionist, but that you can't write a perfect book. It becomes imperfect in the act of writing it. And so instead, I just ask myself when I'm working, does this do exactly what I wanted it to do?
Hmm.
And for better or worse, or all things in between, Bones just does exactly what I wanted it to do.
Oh, yeah, I love that. So we've reached our spoiler
Oh,
question. So this is
sorry.
up to you whether or not you want to answer
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So what made you decide to stop Sabine's POV and
Yes.
end the book with only Lottie and Alice? And then
Okay. Yeah,
beyond that, if we have a little time, I'd love to hear you talk about your decision for POVs at each point in the book or
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
your books. Like what makes you decide to tell the story from certain people's perspective?
So, whenever I sit down to write a book, I figure it out both ways. So, there's narrative
Mhm.
order and chronological order. And the narrative order is the order in which a reader will perceive the actions happening. So, like anytime a book has flashbacks, that's narrative order, obviously not chronological order. Chronological order is the order the story is happening to the people in it. Obviously, Sabine and Charlotte and Alice are experiencing this, Gesundheit, are experiencing this in chronological order, but we as the reader will be perceiving it in narrative order. So there was a lot of structural choices to make. And I think something that this is how I'll answer this without it feeling like a spoiler. There's something that happens in Sabine's life that made sense to me that we would step away from her internal space.
Mm.
She's at a point in her life when something is happening to her that I found like more interesting to see from the outside.
Mhm.
But I also want readers to remember that even though I'm writing in third person, it's a really close third person. You are essentially being told the story by each of the characters in their perspective, and perspective is biased.
Hmm.
So I really wanted to switch to Charlotte at the point that I do, because Charlotte probably sees herself as the great victim of this book.
Hmm.
And that is a reader's decision to make up. But what I would caution the reader is that we are experiencing Charlotte's entire story from Charlotte's perspective.
Mm.
And that is really that's a subjective place to be for somebody who chooses to name themselves the victim. And so I thought, I don't actually want you to get to know. I want you to have to decide as the reader, like what their relationship was like if you had seen it from a different perspective, because you see their entire relationship from Charlotte's perspective.
Yeah.
And so I wanted a handoff, a narrative handoff, and that's one of the reasons that it's structured the way it is. I did play with structure immensely. I went back and forth. There's a version of this book wherein Sabine is actually the last POV and not the first
Mm.
POV, and it happens in a
Cool.
completely different order, but it changed the entire experience of reading. And so that's why I kind of looked at it a little bit like a domino, like a handoff. And I think it's important that Sabine is the villain, and that's not a spoiler. That is like, she is our antagonist. Let's put it that way. She's our grand dame of antagonism.
Yeah.
And it's really important to, I think, have a tiny bit of space then between like when we leave her and when we see her again,
Hmm.
and to kind of understand that the version of her that Alice sees is different from the version that Charlotte talked about, is different from the actual Sabine. It's just all subjective.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to play with the idea of like who gets to tell the story and what would it look like if Sabine's perspective had carried forward. What would she have said?
Hmm. Oh, juicy. It's juicy. I love Sabine. And I don't know
Oh,
if it's
I had so
because
much fun
like
writing.
I just love her or if because she was the first POV we got
No, I
introduced
love
and I
her.
like attached myself to her. Um
I
so
love her the way I love Villanelle from Killing Eve, which
mm,
is to say it's a person who has, I will always forgive a villain who acknowledges their role in villainy
hmm.
over somebody who pretends that they're a hero. It's like the center point of Vicious with Victor and Eli as well,
Yeah.
is like, it's just so much easier to root for someone who's like, okay, I'm the bad guy then.
Hmm.
Like, I don't care. That's your perspective.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that there's just like one of the most cathartic creative experiences for me writing Sabine. In one point, because stylistically, she's the most autobiographical. Like, I am not a serial killing immortal. I feel like I have to presage that.
Cool,
But
cool, cool.
like that voice, that relationship to gender and sexuality, like all of it is definitely the most me of the
Mhm.
trio. And she's also the most empowered in that way of the trio. And so I think I just, God, I loved writing her so much. I was so sad when I was done writing her. I was like, I would have kept going with. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sabine is such a I, I could talk like a whole year about Sabine. That character is, I think readers are going to not even fall in love, but just be mesmerized by her and
Yeah.
her complexity. She's so cool.
That's
She's
the
so
Yeah.
hope, man. That's the hope. Sabine had to be, that was the great trick, though. She has to be so intoxicating.
Yeah. I was gonna
yes.
say she's
Like,
so seductive. Like,
yeah, yeah. So even in the early days, there's like the kernels of her had to be there before she became who she is.
yeah.
Totally. Okay, we have a couple like
Okay,
rapid fire questions to end our time together because I know we're going a little bit over
you're
time.
good. You're good. Don't worry.
Okay.
Um, okay, if you could lay claim to any city, Ala Mateo,
Oh
what
yeah.
would you lay claim to?
Probably Edinburgh. It's such a
Mm.
lazy answer because I did like I've lived here for 8 years. But yeah, this is just a city I've probably walked every single step of it. So by Mateo's rules, I probably have laid claim to a small portion. But yeah, this city has a hold on me.
I love that. I think it would be Prague for me.
Ooh, I'm going back there this fall and I'm really excited. So, dude, I'm probably going to message you for recommendations
Please
because
do.
I've only been once and it was just like 10 years ago when I was researching Addie.
Yeah. I love Prague. People are going to be shocked that I didn't pick a city in Ireland, but
Yeah.
there's something so glorious about Prague that I'm like, oh,
I just remember the sidewalks. Like
yeah.
there's like mosaic tile sidewalks across the
Hmm.
city. And it's like five different countries
Yes.
made a Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's very hard. Like I just think it's magical, but I need to explore it more. I also had
Yeah.
one of the most quiet supernatural experiences in my life that ended up inspiring a scene in Addie LaRue, but I didn't
Oh.
name the city because I changed the location. But I walked into a tiny cathedral, or not even a cathedral, a little church
Hmm.
on a little back alley street in Prague, and the entire thing was gilded gold inside, and they were having an organ concert at like 10 a.m. and they handed you a blanket as you came in. There was like maybe 8 of us. And then we just like sat there in like light streaming through onto gilded art and just listened to an organ for an hour.
Wow.
So crazy.
Just
That
like just one of those things.
Prague is one of those like truly magical cities. Like
Yeah.
every time I go there, I have the craziest experiences in the best way. And a
It's
lot of them are tied to religious places.
yeah. I mean, it's a religious iconography city, so it
It
makes
is.
sense. What about you, Danielle?
Um, I think I would lay claim to, yeah, I don't, there's one specific park that I lived near when I was living in Toronto. Um, and there's just like one swing set. I think I would just want to lay claim to that little area in
I
that
love
moment. Yeah, that's what I would choose.
that.
I love it.
Amazing.
Um, so your girls, ladies, vampires are very hungry. And the
Yeah.
way you describe their feeding is so visceral, and we can really understand like their want to keep feeding because they
Yeah.
like crave the feeling of being alive again. What is a meal that makes you feel like that you've had?
Um, I mean, I love food in general, like probably the hot chocolate scene, because I feel like
Mm.
I love dark chocolate and I love melted chocolate and I love like one of my favorite things to do if I'm somewhere that like I'm having espresso is like I'll put a piece of dark chocolate on my tongue while I'm drinking the espresso and it just like it
Ooh.
melts. Um, but I think like a perfect piece of like dark chocolate layer cake with like a kind of a buttercream frosting in between.
Hmm.
Uh, there's just something about that. I could probably just it's transportative.
Hmm.
Like I have a sweet tooth anyway, so but there's just something about a perfect layer cake.
Oh, love that. Danielle.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Um,
Mhm.
come back to me, Deirdre. You go. Oh, I have to think.
Um, I don't think it's open anymore, but there was this little restaurant in Rome and they had the perfect gnocchi. It was shaped like a circle and it was
Mm.
like the size of my palm. Like it was
Oh,
huge. And I've had it twice in my life. I still think about it. Every time I think about like what could I have on death row, it would probably be that specific gnocchi. It truly was transcendent.
There is something about perfect pasta. Like
Mm.
I there's a pasta shop on the Portobello High Street about a block from here. And I just like maybe 4 years ago, they would open for like a lunchtime, but there's no seating. You would just have to like take it with you and go
Oh,
down to the beach. And they would make a perfect bowl of carbonara with like the egg yolk immediately just like whipped into it. And like it's just like you had to eat it instantly.
yeah.
And like I still think about it. I still
Oh.
think about it. So do you have an answer, Danielle?
I think I was actually gonna say gnocchi, and now I feel like I'm just copying Deirdre.
Oh,
It
But
can be
yeah,
gnocchi.
gnocchi is like, yeah, it's being Italian and growing up in
Yeah.
that culture. I'm like, that was like decadence. Like it is so not gluttonous, but it's like it's so heavy and
Yeah.
it takes up space and
It's filling too. It's like
hmm.
it's hearty.
Hearty.
totally, totally.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm hungry.
Or Dr. Pepper, but that's because I'm a dog.
Gnocchi Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
It's the same
No?
tomato tomato. Truly, truly, truly.
Love
Okay. Um, before we skidoo, is there any like favorite moments that readers can look forward to while reading the books?
Oh, okay. Well, there's one moment that I hope people cry. There's two scenes that I think will make most people emotional, both with involving a minor character. And but only one of those made me cry, and it's a scene involving Jocelyn and a garden. And that's all I'll say. And there is one, it's so small, people are getting mad. So Addie LaRue and Bones are set in the same world,
hmm.
Yeah.
and this is important for maybe something in the future, but for right now, I said, but for right
I
now
heard it.
there
I
is
heard the maybe.
a
Don't worry.
single cameo, a suggestion, a whisper of a cameo for Addie in this book, and only about a dozen readers so far have found it. I will tell you when we stop recording
I
what
was
it
gonna
is.
ask you about it when we stopped recording. So I was like,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna ask you
but
while we're recording.
the suggest what it implies is very fun and exciting, and I might write a short story about it.
Great.
So, but yeah, so look for the Addie cameo and look for Jocelyn in the garden at night.
Okay. Yes. Good.
Well,
Okay, amazing.
Amazing. And I hope that these women, you don't need to love them all, but I hope they get under your skin.
wonderful. Before we let you go, we love to ask people what they're currently reading, if they are reading anything. Are you currently reading, or are you so
Well, I
writing
wasn't
land?
because I was finishing a book. So I finished Victorious yesterday, and now I'm like, I do this thing where I like binge on as many books as possible because I can't usually read fiction in that kind of last stretch.
Mhm.
So I'm finishing up a piece of nonfiction that I was reading called Careless People, which is the Facebook expose.
Yeah.
Whoa, it's
Yeah.
and then I'm going to be picking up Amal El-Matar's The River Has Roots, which is a novella that I've been really excited about, and S.A. Cosby's new one, King of Ashes, which is like a Black Godfather in the American South.
Okay. You
So
always read the best books. Like I do pay
I
attention
got
to what
so
you're
much
reading.
catching up to do at this point. Like I'm behind schedule for the year.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It is
You're so
always a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for coming on our podcast for a second time. Can't believe I get to say that. For all of you listeners or watchers, if you're watching this video over on YouTube, you can get Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil now. It is out in the world, and I hope you enjoy it.
and we're back. Hey,
And we're
no time has
back.
just kidding. A whole interview happened, but for us, no time has passed. That's the magic of editing, kids. Um, let's do our current reads. What
Yes,
are you currently reading?
I have it right here.
Yes, okay. I want to hear more about this.
Okay, so I posted on my Instagram story that sometimes I will just like grab a book as I'm running out of the house because I know I'm gonna have time to
Yeah.
read. but I won't have started it. Like I'll just pick a random book in my TBR pile. And I've been meaning to read this book for a while, so I just like grabbed it and ran. But then as I was leaving the house, I was like, what if I don't like it? Like, why would I pick a book that I'm not convinced I want to spend like 2 hours reading because I was taking a train ride? Um, I had nothing to fear. This was so captivating. So I'm just over 50 pages in. Um, and this is for I need to like calm down. So this is Pony Confidential by Christina Lynch.
Yeah.
And the book opens and we meet Penny. She is, I think, an elementary or a middle school teacher. And she comes upon this police officer in her community, and she thinks they're having a perfectly normal interaction until he handcuffs her and starts reading her Miranda rights. And she's like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "You're under arrest for murder."
Girl, Penny, run, girl.
And she was like, "What are you talking about? I've never murdered anybody." And it turns out that she is being extradited to New York. She lives in California, I think.
Yeah.
And she is being accused of a murder that happened like 25 years ago when she would have been 12 years old.
What?
So she's on her journey to New York.
Oh,
And she's freaking out, obviously. And then they come upon these ponies that they see on their drive, and either her or the police officer brings it up, and they both have this exchange where they talk about how they both had ponies in their childhood. And so then we get to meet the pony. And he is a bitter Betty.
oh.
He is angry, he is spiteful, and
Yeah.
we find out that he loved Penny so much. Him and Penny were not together for very long, but he she told him they would be together forever, and then suddenly they weren't. And from the moment that he left Penny's life, his life was miserable because he was sold to people and he was a like show pony. So little kids would kind of learn to ride on him and do shows. And for anybody that doesn't know ponies are different than horses. They are a completely separate breed. It's not just a small horse or like a baby horse. Like it is a entire breed of it.
Okay.
So there are like pony, at least in this book, like shows and like show jumping and all that kind of stuff, but it is mostly children doing it because they outgrow them and they need to move up to a horse.
Yeah.
And so he is like a educational pony, essentially, but he has to work with all these spoiled, bratty kids. And he's like, I'm teaching them lessons. I'm teaching them not to touch people when they don't want to be touched.
Yeah.
I'm teaching them how to hold on. And the parents and the people that own him see him as a liability. But he has managed to not get put down, right? Like he's lived 25 years of his life just
Yeah.
going from like farm to farm to farm.
He's not gone to the glue factory yet.
No. And so his entire mission in life is to find Penny. Like he is convinced that he needs to find her because he needs to make her pay for his suffering.
So slay.
And so I'm still very early in the book. I don't really know how their lives are going to intersect, but just based on the little detective cap that we have here and the synopsis, it does seem like the pony is going to be integral to solving this murder mystery.
Mm.
And I'm really excited. I don't think this book is going to be for everybody because the writing is really simple, and I know a lot of people don't like that.
Sure.
I don't care. If it's a really well-written story, like I don't mind that I feel like I could give this to a 13-year-old and they would be able to fully comprehend this. Um, I actually think it's the perfect palate cleanser book. I've been reading some incredible books lately, but they've been like way out in fantasy land. And as I talked about at the beginning of the episode, I have been in fantasy land in my philosophical findings. So I really needed something that was just going to be like Feels weird to be like grounding. But something that's like not hard to reach for mentally,
Yes,
you
it's
know?
just a little ride. Away you go, little pony ride.
And
True.
he's so bitter. He is so mean. And it's hilarious. Like to think about this little pony and he's just like, There's a little illustration of him on the back. Look
Oh my God,
at
he's so
his little face.
big.
He's so upset.
What's his name?
That's a great question. I think it's just Pony for now.
Hey, that's not fair. He should have a name.
I think he's had like a ton of different names.
And it probably is, but I'm like in my heart. I don't know what his name is, but I hope. I just think it was so funny. You said something when Penny was arrested, and then her and the cop both realized they had ponies as children. I'm like, how is that a shared memory? Like,
I know.
how? What kind of childhoods do you guys have? Because like
For
I don't know,
real.
pony that for me made me giggle when you
I
said that.
know. And he, like, the pony talks about how he's had a bunch of different lives. Like, he's been sold to farms and like show places, but then he's also been like birthday gifts, you know? Like, he really is the thing that our parents warned us against as like gifting a pet as a gift.
Yeah, it's like in the live action the Grinch how the Grinch Stole Christmas when he's like when the Grinch is talking about all the things that get dumped in Mount Crumpet.
Yeah.
He gets the pony no name pony gets dumped in Mount Crumpet a little bit, and that's sad. Damn.
That's what I'm currently reading, and I'm having a blast.
Holy guacamole. Okay. Um, I just finished bury our bones, bury me in the midnight
Bury
soil.
me in the midnight soil. For real.
Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. So I'm going to talk about a book that I finished recently. It's called Wild Side by Elsie Silver, who's a Canadian author. And in the front of the book, the only reason I show you this is because it's important to me. It has a map of Canada, and it talks about the places where the book takes place. This is British Columbia, for those of you who don't know. I know it's hard to see. This is Alberta, and I live in Alberta. And I live in Calgary, which is right here. Chestnut Springs, I don't think actually exists, but it's part of the. Anyway, this is it's important to me. Okay, so this is actually the third book in the series, and you'll notice, wow, Danielle, you have a lot of Elsie Silver books, and I do. I really like her as an author. All her books are on Kindle Unlimited as well. So rock on if that is your jam away. But the whole premise is there is this small community in British Columbia where this family has like it's ranchy, it's small town living. The first book is between a billionaire and his like childhood brother's little sister romance. The second book is a celebrity and the brother. And then this book is between
the millionaire's best friend.
Sorry, I'm being confused. This book, I'm gonna go slow. This book is about what's her name? Ford, who's a millionaire, and then his best friend's little sister.
Okay, because you said you were like billionaire's brother's sister, and I was like, I don't think that's right.
Thank you for correcting me. I'm just getting really excited because I really like these books. And then this book is this country singer, very like a la Taylor Swift, comes to Rose Hill to basically the billionaire in the first book is a music producer, so she comes to create a record with him and ends up falling in love with said brother. But the beginning of this book is a grizzly bear attack, which is one of the best intros of a romance book I've ever read. It's not gruesome. It's like he's like laying on top of her, protecting her from a grizzly bear who's like sniffing around them. It's really fun. And also a little spooky, but it's fun.
Love it.
This one is crazy, dude. This book is crazy. Wild Side is between Tabitha. So Tabitha is Tabby like the cat, Tabby.
Yeah.
She is a moody chef, I think. I read them all back to back. Yes, she's a moody chef. And she has a sister who has struggled with addiction her whole life. And she has helped her at the beginning of the book move into this like duplex in the middle of nowhere that this man Reese owns, and he's renting out the other half of. And upon first meeting Reese, Tabitha's like, if she ever is running late on rent or you're gonna kick her out, call me first. I will deal with it. Like she's in it. This is an older. She's the younger sister, but she's like very much taking care of this girl because her sister's pregnant and is having a baby. So she's trying to have her settle up for a good life. And then we find out, kind of through the other books, that Tabby's sister has passed away.
Mm.
And now Tabby has come into guardianship of this nephew who she is absolutely in love with. She loves this little boy. But then one day, this man like strolls up to her home and she knows it's Reese. And he's like, actually, I have guardianship of this kid. It was in the will. So the sister had written in the will that the son belonged to this man, not the sister. And now the sister's fighting for guardianship. And then also like B plot in this book is Reese is very mysterious, and Tabitha's like, why is he so mysterious and hot? And I love him so much. He's a WWE style wrestler who has like an alter ego. I know it seems out of nowhere, but it's well planned in the book. You can see on here it's this little mask that he wears, very like Orville Peck style, where it's like, oh, no one can know my identity. So it's him coming to terms with who he is and sharing that part. And like they end up deciding to cohabitate together to raise this kid together.
Yeah.
Because he is a US citizen. So it's kind of like there's a lot of moving parts, but this book is there's lots of angst in this book. I mean, it's about addiction, it's about family passing away, it's about yeah, it's a really fun. Those ones are more rompy funny. This one's like very lots of tension in this one, but it's really really fun. There's some really funny moments in this book, and yeah, again, it's on Kindle Unlimited. So even if you want to give the first one a little go and see, oh, and they end up having to get married. That's the whole thing. They have to get married for him to. Yeah, that's the whole. It's very like The Proposal. If you've seen the Sandra Bullock, Ryan Reynolds movie, they have to get married for him to stay in the state or in Canada. So it's a forced proximity. They live in the same house. She is like mad at him because she thinks that he like kicked his sister out, or is part of like her dying. It's just really fun. I know it sounds very dark and gloomy, but it's pretty.
I think dark and gloomy can still be fun.
It is, and I guess it just in a romance book, especially, I think it just makes it a little bit more impactful.
Yeah. I've been meaning to read her books. People are always talking about them.
I got like she has a whole bunch. So I won a contest on Instagram. I won a contest on Instagram for $100 Indigo gift card. So I bought.
That's major.
It was major for me. I bought all of the Elsie Silver books, so the ones that they had in stock. So she has another series. I don't even know what the series is called, but I literally just have like a whole shelf now. That's all her. I really like her writing. I really like it. It's very fun. And that's that.
And that's that. Okay, everybody, I think we have reached the end of the episode. I'm gonna go lock myself in a dark closet, i.e. my bathroom. And this
go bury your bones in the midnight soil.
Go bury my bones in the midnight soil, let me tell you. This was truly so much fun. Obviously, the biggest thank you to Victoria for coming back to the podcast. Truly never thought I would get to say that sentence, let alone say it how many times today. And what a wonderful way to start our morning. It is morning for both me and Danielle. And now I get to go about my day, basking in the glow of a post-Victoria Schwab conversation.
I get to do paperwork.
So fun. And we hope that you all feel as excited by this episode as we do. Please come talk to us about the episode. We can chat in YouTube comments. We can chat on our Instagram at Books on the Brain Pod. If you have listened to this episode, I am going to encourage you to come over to our Instagram and let us know by commenting with the vampire emoji on and the dead rose. I think the vampire emoji and the dead rose on our post about this episode, which will be posted the morning the episode goes live, obviously. And that's how we'll be able to tell that y'all are enjoying the episode. You can go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are pretty much everywhere now. You cannot escape us. And we have many more episodes to come this season, so we hope you will stick around, and we will chat to you in the next one. Bye!